Hello there, wonderful people. Today we have a really good show. Today we're going to be talking about how to zen up your agency, how to zen up your business. I'm John Sarakis, and you're listening to The Climb. You're watching The Climb, hopefully, as well. And this is brought to you by the Digital Mastermind. Our show is about journeys. It's a podcast where we talk to digital agencies about business, marketing, and technology. So if you want tips, tricks, tools, mentorship, or want to be a mentor, then join our tribe of digital agency owners. And it's more than just like it's more than just a marketing group. I want to be clear about that. Ours is a group that has other owners, other like-minded people. It's a mastermind. That's why we call it the Digital Mastermind. And we also have some bi-weekly calls to stay on top of the latest and greatest. We have constant communication via Slack group. And of course, that gnarly meeting that I've talked about for quite some time. So go ahead and shoot me an email if you want to join, john@digitalmastermind.com, and we'll have a conversation. And this is live, so any interaction is welcome. So chime in, questions, comments, concerns, whatever it is that you got. And Dave, why don't you come on out here? There he is.
How's it going?
Business partner, longtime member of the DMG himself, David McGraw.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I can't say enough about the DMG. If you're looking for a peer group, I can tell you, I can point to numbers, the amount of growth Oyoba has achieved, and I can directly attribute that to DMG. So highly recommend it if you're looking for a peer group.
Cool. All right. I love it. I love a good plug. Good plug. All right. So today we're trying something new, right? So today instead of doing live interviews, we're going to do interviews for that are pre-recorded, right? I think like Real Sports with Brian Gumbel is an example that I've used before when I was explaining this to some of my teammates. And what we want to accomplish is having the interviewer as comfortable as possible, but also time where we can talk about and reflect on what is said to build on. And this is a total experiment. And with experiments, it goes, typically one of two ways. Hopefully this is gonna be a great success. So today we're going to be talking I interviewed Keith Roberts, and the topic today is, how to zen up your agency. His agency, in fact, is called Zenman, and I want to give a quick overview of his climb. He's not here, and I know we've done that in the past, but super accomplished guy. Went to the Brooks Institute where he studied photography. He became a designer, essentially to work on some, working for another company. And he got into web development. This was in the 90s while he was in Denver. And then as a one-man show, he learned through trial and tribulation how to build an agency of 20 people with revenues in $2 million with some marquee clients like Frontier Airlines. And I mentioned that agency is called Zenman, because at one time it was just that man. But like I said, he grew it to 20 people. And this is what's really interesting to me. When the first time I talked to him, it really, really caught me. 20 people, $2 million in revenue. And then he got rid of all that. He literally went from the Zen men and women back down to the Zen man to pursue a passion project, which is the Oak Journal. And the reason that I think this is important is because a lot of us as business owners, especially as agency owners, can relate to this. For years, you struggle to grow, to climb. You're on this journey. There's a lot of, fight to it. And he gets there and is like, no, I don't want to do this anymore. I got, the agency to the size that I initially wanted. I also have the number of employees that, I thought it would take. I have the marquee clients, and I want all this to change. So today, in going through our process, we're going to, go into these individual clips, and then we're going to comment on these. And I think another thing that is really important of Keith's story is he did it for happiness, and happiness is, what's more important than that? That's what we're all looking for, to create as much happiness, for ourselves, whether you're a selfish bastard or not. And for the others, it's how can we, create as much happiness for, not only for ourselves, but all those around us. And I think he has a really, really good story that started with this first clip. And this first clip is, I think he kind of teased it up. It's Ikigai, right? And I've never heard of this. And I think it's something that's really cool, that is touching, and I think you'll like.
Are you familiar with the term ikigai?
No.
There's a Japanese term, ikigai. It's actually what they attribute in Okinawa. They have the highest population of centurions, people that are living to be over 100 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And they attribute that to ikigai, which means roughly translated life's purpose. And it's your reason for being. So they believe if you find your ikigai, you're just going to keep working forever. And a lot of people, when they retire, they have nothing to do, they lose their purpose, and then life just sort of ends. They lose their will to live. But, in this little island in Japan that's famous for, Mr. Miyagi and the Karate Kid, they have all of these people that are still jamming, doing what they love well into their hundreds. And your ikigai is at the center of 4 circles. It's what you love, what you're good at, what you can get paid for, and what the world needs. And I had 3 of them. And that's really hard to bail and try to find the 4th, right? I got paid really well as an agency owner. There were also years I did really poorly.
Yeah.
I was really good at it. I liked it, but I don't know if the world needs more tickets sold on Frontier Airlines or more, bentang sold. It just wasn't something that if I help one person live a better life, that fills me with joy.
Dave, what's your ikigai?
So purpose, that's a really, that's the thing that, makes you wake up in the morning and gets you into the office. And I agree with him. I mean, you've got to enjoy your purpose. I mean, to talk to this point, like every year I used to get into this kind of like rut around the end of summer where my tank was just empty, and the DMG meeting usually refilled that back up, and it got me pumped back up for my business. I think every business owner runs into that situation where you have to remind yourself, what is your purpose? Why are you doing this? We've gone through growth and retractions, and that's business. That's the business cycle. And, you have to be happy with your purpose. I believe my purpose is to create an impact for customers and train employees. Like I love being able to help them grow like that. I really enjoy training and teaching and those aspects.
That's a strong purpose. I think, and I believe, and I've looked at purpose a lot. I remember when Simon Sinek wrote the book, something about Find Your Why or something, and that's where it really got a lot of attention. I thought it was like this amazing thing, and then it's easy to confuse it because at the end of the day, you want to align, right? Your purpose with the company's purpose. And then we started actually doing this as an exercise for companies. And I think you can go too far. Somebody like me that can crush happiness like sugar. All right, yeah, cool. Let's just, buy a bag of it and just funnel it into our mouth. So I think we got to be careful with finding our purpose and realize that it's a balance. There's some select few of us that can just go and throw a football better, sing a song better, do that type of thing, right?
Well, it's to his point that he says, does the world need more of it? I love that aspect of it. Like your purpose could be making the greatest, drug, but does the world need did you just hear the makers of OxyContin is basically been sued out of existence now because they basically created a great drug that the world doesn't need.
Right. Yeah.
So it's good example right there. So I like that.
I agree. And I mean, I like, so the model with Ikigai, and I'll get into my purpose here is, what he said is like, all right, what you love, passion, mission, paid for, profession, vocation. There's like actually even some other ways, oh no, it's love, good at, needs, and paid for. Right. And he had 3 of those. I don't know. I like, to me, I'm just like, all right, I like to build things. Right. So I think that's kind of like a safe way that I can move into all types of different other things. I like to create, like to write, love to, build companies. And then of course, all the facets on that, right? And then typically, what makes me happy, I try to spread that happiness around as much, but I got to commend him in now having a model and shaping his life around it and realizing that, which we're going to get into in the next clip, how near and dear that was to him, right? Because your purpose, and I believe my purpose, we're in this together and we're like, all right, this is where we're at and this is what we're doing. And, we're pretty much happy with it. His inspired a dramatic change, which I think is something very different and super interesting, which Tease up the next clip. So it sounds like you're reflecting now. You're like, yeah, I can't believe I cared about those things. Like, what are the things that you can't even believe you worried about? It sounds like some of it was just the aesthetics, but is there anything else that jumps out at you? Like, I mean, that was just, so fruitless for me to even think about it.
What other people think. Yeah. I have no business in caring or knowing what anybody else thinks of me. I don't live my life for anybody else. One of my good friends, Jeff Ryan's dad, said when he was a kid, you don't jog on Main Street, right? You're not going for a run so everybody sees you go for a run. If you want to do it, that's great. You want to do it because you want to be in shape. If you're going to run up and down Main Street, that's your personal brand is bullshit. And I hate the term personal brand. I do think now in today's world, influencers, it has changed a little bit. I would have said 5 years ago, if you aren't a silhouette on a shoe or some clothing device, you are not a brand. Now that's changed, right? You've got everything from Tim Ferriss, Joe Rogan, authors, people are brands, but I feel like what somebody tries to do is instead of having an authentic reputation and building their network and being true to their word, they are full of shit, right? They want to get as many followers as they can. They want to post something that's not authentic or it's not true, and that drives me insane.
I think that clip is important because, all right, so he goes down to, like I said, he's the one person, at his agency, and now what he's learned with that perspective, you don't have to worry about what anybody else thinks. That competition that can be really draining, especially in this space because it's so visual. Where you're looking at somebody else, you're like, oh, well, look at competitor one's website. Look at Angel Baby's competitor 2 website. And like getting rid of all of that was, granted, I think for anybody that's looking at that pain, immensely pleasurable. What I also think is important is that's another signal to not give a shit what the competition's doing. Don't even pay attention to them. And, and also just focus on yourself and your own agency. That's one of my big takeaways from that.
Yeah, 100%. If you're, caring about other people and what other people think is for the birds. I mean, if you got your clients and you're doing the best work you can for your clients and you're seeing success and you're working hard and you're not just mailing it in, then, hey, you're good to go.
Isn't there a balance to it, though?
For what?
For not caring what people think?
Well, I think so. I thought about this when going through these clips, and I care what people think because I care about my persona. Because I care. I'm vested in how people approach, my brand, like me, and so I don't necessarily care what they think, but I do care of how I am perceived. Does that make sense?
Kind of. That's just something I always think about a lot, right? Because you can't control how you're perceived. You can only control how you present, right?
Correct.
So, because there's some people that you're going to deal with, and whatever's going on in their, mind, world.
I care about how I present myself,
right?
For my own self.
Yeah. But then there's and I think to some discredit, you have these, brilliant people that just treat the whole world around them for the most part like trash, and they still, happen to succeed. So I think other people, see that. So,
100%.
And for instance, it's really efficient to just say like really terse messages to people, right? Where you could just say like, you're fired, instead of like, hey, we need to have this conversation and going about it. And I guess the main thing is caring about certain people, and this is the balance, caring about certain people to the extent that it doesn't harm you is the way I think I like to reflect on how people think about me. Because there's all types of things, you can make things mean something they shouldn't. So, and I'm trying to put like a pin on this, but I think I'm just kind of like floundering with the words as I'm trying to like come up with this definition. It's not as eloquent. So
empathy, you want?
I guess there's empathy and compassion, right? You have to have compassion for yourself, compassion for others. But I think it's also really important because you can be your own worst enemy, your worst critic, when you start believing the negative things that aren't helping you improve around you.
Sure. 100%.
And that comes from, all right, yeah, caring what other people think. And usually that's technically not even what they think. It's what you think they think.
Right.
So you tell yourself all these stories. Anyway, kind of get into some of the minutia there. I think that was a great clip and a great lesson for people that own agencies. Don't care about your competition. Just keep doing what you're doing. Stick to your mission, and you'll know whether your mission's working or not because others are glomming onto it and you're making money. If those two things aren't happening, something's typically wrong. And
this is actually a great transition to the next clip, if you'll allow me to tee this one up. The customer's perception of your value, right? That's what he gets into in the next clip. So let's take a look.
You know the story of the Picasso. I'm going to brutalize this story, but a woman asks him at a cafe, "Will you draw a sketch of me?" And he whips out the sketch in 30 seconds and hands it to her and says, "That'll be like $30,000." And she says, "That took you a minute." And Picasso's response was, "No, that took me a lifetime."
Right.
I'll do that. Right. So if I can do your logo in an hour, does that actually diminish the value of the logo, or should you just be happy that you get it tomorrow?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But I don't think most customers have that value proposition in their mind.
So this hits home for us because we actually just went through a scenario like this where a client purchased a product from us and then found out from a friend of a friend that, WordPress sites should only cost $1,000 because their brother's cousin does WordPress sites now. The level of what they do versus the level of what we do is, galaxies apart. And on top of that, we had this like finely tuned set of things that was, designed specific for the industry, but they just couldn't value that because they heard that WordPress sites should be cheap. And so we ended up having to break the relationship because they just couldn't get past that. And they don't value, sometimes when customers don't value the past or the work that you've put in to get to where you're at right now, then those are terrible customers.
Yeah, I agree. And an analogy I typically like to use with people when we would come into like, yeah, hey, my nephew who takes bong rips every 15 minutes in my garage wants to build my website. Well, what's the difference? I'm like, all right, hey, look, yeah, you can go and buy a car. It can even be the same car. Let's say that it's a Toyota, right? So he's going to go ahead and build you the Corolla. We're going to build you the one that's going to win a fucking Grand Prix. So there's a vast difference between Bobby the Bong Ripper and what we do. And it's kind of an insult in professionalism, It's just
correct.
Yeah, like, dude, if he was as good as we are, he would have everything that we have. And I hate not to get insulted, but I mean, in the procurement process, speaking with other businesses and other people, when that comes up, it's just the ultimate sign, if you can't get past that hurdle in the value perception, that you're working with someone that just does not know how to buy.
Maybe we should start asking leads or potential clients, are your competitors using Bobby the Bong Ripper? Because that's what they need to look at it as. It's not about how can I get the lowest price something. It's what are my competitors doing? If they're not hiring these, low end off the street people to manage their online presence, then you shouldn't be. So maybe we start.
Yeah. What does the market bear? What is the competition? What is the competition telling us? In fact, in telling us, we have our own Tony D'Angelo saying the clips are reverbing.
Oh, so it's not for me. So it looks like we're going to have a mic issue.
Do you think it's on your end? You think you could shut the mic down on yours? And
yeah, it might be on my end. And what that means, we're going to have to go to the headphone route.
Oh, This is it. This is the, it's like when a town gets its first intersection. Like we're now moving to headphones. Like
no, but it's when we play clips, it says our mics are muted. So I don't know what's going on.
I don't know either. I don't know. Need somebody like I don't know. Well, let's keep going. The show must go on. Let's pursue.
Must.
All right. But I mean, and to speak to that the Picasso example, it's a great story. I don't even know if it's true, but I've heard it, time and time again. And he was a known Lothario, big flirt. This beautiful woman comes up to him at a cafe and tells her it's going to be 7,000 francs, in Paris. but it's something that I really agree with, that you have to pay for experience. And if you're not paying for experience, you're getting something subpar, and also respecting that experience.
Right.
Which, speaking of experience, cues up our next clip.
The other thing that I would say is there are too many people in this business that are full of shit, that are either biting other people's work, that are redoing it, that are saying they're doing a service. SEO is a great example. You know, people that are saying they're doing SEO, and there's just PBMs and gray hat and black hat, and they're doing things to their customers that can have catastrophic effects to their brands. So it's there's just a lot of agencies out there that are sketchy, that, you know, you really don't want to work with. Probably 70 to 90% of our clients, we're in a new brand that started. It was, hey, we fired these other assholes. Can you please help us untangle this? And some of the scenarios that we've encountered over the years are mind-boggling, with the way people painted themselves in the corner and giving the agency the keys to the castle and just letting them train wreck it.
So I know that we've dealt with that.
What's that?
I know we've dealt with that.
Oh yeah, of course. So
being on the receiving end where somebody didn't do what they're supposed to do, and then now we had to polish this turd.
Oh, we built a business based on that. We always were called in to save a sinking ship, and we did it. And I feel like that's just kind of doesn't every business have to go through that? Like, I always attribute it to like leveling up in a video game or something, right? You know, all the new businesses have to start here and eat shit. And then you just get a little bit more, you just climb. And, you know, we're on year 10 or 11 now, and, you know, we're starting to just level up. And now we're getting bigger brands, more recognition, and that's just part of it, right? So it just depends on where you're at. And if you stop leveling up, you're where you're supposed to be based on what you're doing.
Agreed. Yeah. If you're on that plateau, that's where you belong. And I think most do. But you see those others that don't, and it's just like this rock star type of scenario where it wasn't bad. It was only 3 years. And I love those stories for them. And I've never been a part of that. Like, it's always been a complete dogfight.
Did you hear the echoing again on that time?
No, I didn't. No.
So I turned my speakers off during the clip and muted the second screen. So I think I figured it out. It's unfortunate. The earlier ones were really good.
Okay. I love this. We finally figured out the issue. I don't have to wear headphones, and we're back in action, giving Keith the respect that he deserves. But I want to say another thing about bad agencies. If you are one of those bad agencies and you happen to be listening to this, I think there's still a chance for you. You can correct your wrongdoings by being authentic, telling the truth, not overselling what it is that you do, and also potentially partnering with others insofar as mentors that are willing to help you out. Don't oversell yourself, because somebody's going to lose a ton of money, and it's only a matter of time before you get sued. And I've seen that happen, because anytime somebody costs another company money when they were not supposed to, or they promised, something that was better, you're asking for somebody to come after you with everything that they got. Because the whole name of this game is money. It's business. That's what we want to do. And if you're not also doing that, I think it's worth mentioning. If you're not in this game, to create, money for somebody on a marketing level, or help them save money or make money for yourself, you're not in a business. You need to go find, start a club or start a nonprofit or something. And that was a big trend that I'm seeing diminish a little bit.
Also, from when you're hiring an agency, ask them where their people at. Where's the work getting done? Yep. If your social media content is being generated on the other side of the planet, how are they going to be able to connect with your customers?
Right.
And if you have an immediate issue, like, you need to ask those questions. And if you're one of those companies that are like, I don't care who does the work as long as it gets done, you're not going to be successful anyways. That's because your whole attitude isn't going to be successful. Yep. So, I mean, again, you're there. You're at the spot where you're supposed to be. You always say that, and I love that saying.
There for a reason.
Yep.
Amen. All right, this is our final clip from Keith coming up. This one is, near and dear. No employees. Why no employees?
Why employees? Like, I will have a couple agents. there might be a couple times where if there was somebody I would bring in as like a CMO, if I had an agency that was doing stuff and I could get somebody in. But even then, if you have one person that has all the keys to the castle and then, that they're hit by a bus or they go to a competitor, or I don't know, you can't have one person that has you by the short and curlies, right? You have to understand what's going on within that organization and be able to replace anybody on Monday.
Right.
And so if I could scale this to where, fulfillment's done by a fulfillment center, I've got a couple partner agencies that do the work that I need them to do as far as Facebook, Instagram, paid advertising, and then the stuff that I'm good at, I'll do.
Right.
But I like managing vendors versus employees after 23 years.
Got it. It's I don't know. Would you say it's like more cutthroat that way because it's just the business arrangement is more clear?
It's funny, and it might be just I wasn't a good leader at the beginning, but it's easier for me to hold them accountable. I think that it's harder for me to have a confrontation to an employee that I see every day and I form that relationship with, or like family or friend, and versus if I'm looking at my agency today, I'm looking at the report, right? This is data. It's not a opinion-based decision. These are based on facts. Right. And we can discuss if things aren't going well and we can try to right the situation. I'm not wanting to like hire a new agency every couple of weeks. I believe I want to find an agency that's going to work with me forever. I believe in partners versus vendors, but it's just easier to hold them accountable, I think, because it's an external relationship and we've got a contract. We've got a really clear contract on our expectations. Yeah.
And and it could be the, like you said, on the expectations, but it's really clear on the function, right? Like you do this thing does not happen, like we try to fix it and then on to the next one. Where with employees, maybe they can kind of hide, abscond, certain information. And I was taking out the trash, bro. That's why I didn't answer the phone.
Yeah. And I found that they didn't have the same sense of urgency that I did. And for years I wanted them to. And then I had the realization that, well, if they had the same urgency and drive and ownership that you did, they're just going to start their own agency, right? Mm-hmm. They don't want to work for you. And many of them did. And I love that about, Young and Hungry, Aquamarine. There's some cool agencies that are old Zenmanners that are kicking ass. And that's, for me, that's a sense of pride. Whereas 20 years ago, the first person I ever fired, I haven't thought of this story in years. His name was Newman. And I fired Newman he effed up a huge project, didn't work on it. It was one of our first big swings. It was with Level 3. So we had an in there and we were doing a big presentation for their voice over IP. We were doing an animated demo. And I came in and he had not... it looked like he spent an hour on it. It was shit. So it was actually my birthday. It was like 2 p.m. I pulled an all-nighter. This is, 20 years ago or 15 years ago. So I pull an all-nighter at like 6 a.m. I'm ready to go. This is back in the days that we actually printed and matted our presentations, right? And had them on boards. And he had fucking printed 100 DJ CDs on my printer. And so when I went to print the presentation the next day, it was out of ink and I just lost it. So I fired Newman, and then a couple weeks later, I just had this feeling like, he's using my proposal or like something, something. So I created a Yahoo email address. Again, this was the guerrilla days. I reached out to him to pretend to be a dry cleaner, needs a website, and he sends me back my proposal. So I set up a meeting. I meet him in a coffee shop.
No way,
on him. And now, anybody that's on this podcast or here, we have a document. It's called Zenman Docs to Share. It's our contractor agreement. It's our proposal. It's everything we work for hire. It's everything we've ever spent tens of thousands of dollars to create. I'd rather have creatives have that than, be able to get paid on their contracts and go pay an attorney. No offense. I've got a good attorney personally. Stan Doyd is amazing, but I share those. Whereas, back then it was like, this is mine. The truth of the matter is, I bit that shit off like 4 proposals that I downloaded from the internet, in 1998. So it wasn't like I crafted this, masterpiece that was my, design, discover, deploy. I didn't come up with that shit, right? People were doing that forever. In fact, we changed it because it's so played out.
So many good nuggets there.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. How does it feel watching yourself interview somebody on the climb?
I haven't thought about it. How does that feel? I see certain reactions. I know I laugh a lot about certain things, and yeah. I don't know. I look like a happy guy.
Overall, I think this format rocks it. I think it presents really well. And it was, we'll iron those technical details out. But I mean, just being able to extract the nuggets, the really good pieces, we can get the information to everybody a lot more succinctly, and I think it was great.
Yeah, I know. I think so too. I think that his answer to that is near and dear, though, because there's so many things that people can relate to in that path that he gave, right? And I think and we've talked about it on the show a lot. It's taking your employees and then having them match that function, right? And if you're not doing that, you're not going to be happy with the people because they don't know how they're being measured or what it is that they do. And that measurement can be wide or it can be really tight.
Right.
And I think some of the other takeaways in there are, we all think what we have is this like proprietary secret thing. And no, he was awesome enough. He actually gave me that file, which we'll post in the show notes. But if you're a DMG member, you got those like a week and a half ago when that was recorded, which is in our Slack group. So, I mean, that's another reason to join. Yeah. And I just think, and also the firing, everybody's had that employee that you were counting on that just totally blows it, lets you down, where you have to come in and finish the work. Just a great story of experience in the journey. So
the only concern I have of that approach, I love the approach. I mean, I think it does. You're collecting entrepreneurs because they're, your team is a bunch of CEOs essentially, right? If you're going with this vendor approach. But what happens if your competitor comes in and offers your partner a better deal? You've got contracts. I get that, but
are you saying the way that he set it up now?
Yeah, like I feel like you're, when you have an employee, but the employee can leave whenever they want as well.
Yeah.
But I just think when you're relying on, if there's, I don't know, I just think it's a different risk.
I agree, but I think,
but it's contractual. So I mean, if you can keep your contracts, it's and then expectations and all that is right there in the contract, then I guess you're good.
Which is also, though, if you want employees, the cost makes sense, then the same things, you have a contract with those employees. This is what you're supposed to deliver. And it's not like this formal, legal thing where they get an attorney involved, but this is how you're measured. This is, what the value of it is to the company. And this is what happens when that, it doesn't. We're going to, part company. So whether it's a vendor or an employee, I think the distinction necessary is the measurement in the meeting of the function.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, but I know some agencies where they have tons of contractors. We work with other agencies where we're a contractor, on behalf of them. So I get it. But yeah, if you're going to have, a bunch of them, I'd love to explore that more with some of our other partners and see what that really looks like on a deeper level.
Right.
Now, since we get the show on board, got our clips in place, and I do like this format, and I think we're going to continue it. I think there's some other ways to create Zen in your agency. And granted, he was the most extreme example where it's essentially, that I know of. I mean, I'm sure there's more, but you're a 20 person doing $2 million. And you're going to slim that all the way down to it's essentially you and another person, right? And by Zen, I define that as what I looked up online, right? But it's defined as in the adjective form, being peaceful and calm. Or my spin on that is also everything in its place. So if you want to put everything in its place, as an agency, some of the things you need to look at is getting rid of bad clients. That is definitely not going to play into the peaceful and calm side of things. Getting rid of bad employees. There are employees that are toxic, that are going to create cancers on projects, in departments, going to literally just muddle things up when they shouldn't, remove seamless. So that's something you should really look at. And there's a lot of signs and signals that are telling you that. Bad services, you may suck at certain things. And proof is definitely if you're not making money in it or you're getting tons of complaints, it just doesn't make sense to do it. Maybe that's when you either A, stop doing that, or B, find a potential partner that's better at it for you. And then you can also focus on the types of business that you want to work on. And that might be niche business, right? Where it's like dev, you could do content, email, it could be social. analytics, design. You get the idea. It could just be something that's super focused on that service. You could work it within specific industries. That's been a pretty big rage. Some of the people that chose travel and hospitality didn't fare too well over the last few months. But if there's an industry that you want to, I don't know if it's coffee roasters, or you could even focus geographically where it's hyper local, for instance. Just remove the things from your agency that don't make you money and don't give you pleasure. And those are the things that I would recommend on how to zen up your agency.
Well put. You know, if you're happy, if you like what you do on a daily basis, that's Zen for me. I mean, I come in every day. I'm happy to come in every day. I like what we're doing. I like the work we're doing. I like the clients we have. I've been through the opposite of what we have right now. Like I've seen, the darkness. And there's a time I used to just come in, go to my office, shut my door, and just like, oh, when are these 8 hours going to end? I've definitely been there. And it took making changes. And honestly, it happened to me. I didn't do it. Like the cancers left on their own. And I just, after it happened, I was like scared because I'm like, oh my God, where am I going to find new developers and da-da-da. And then it just all worked out. And a month later, I'm like, everyone's so much happier. The team is so much happier. Every clients are so much. I was like, whoa, where has this been at for so long? And then when I came back and I realized I can't afford cancers in the company anymore. And you just can't tolerate it because it'll take the whole ship down, and it keeps it down there. And so when I finally, saw that, and I was like, all right, this is mantra now. This is rules. We're not going to ever get to that situation again. And the second I hear or feel a cancer go, I'm like, all right, we got to address it. So completely on board with that.
And now that it's distributed, or workforces are distributed, you're going to see that stuff in the messaging and the way that people communicate. So it's still there.
Yep. Yeah. Nothing's changed.
Nope. It's not that person's office that you just, don't even want to look into. It's essentially, there's going to be the email, or you're going to see them in a Slack channel where you're like, all right, that person's now, vacuuming something out. They're not adding anything in. And if they are adding something in, it's toxic. Those people, they need to go and find something else. Help them along their journey.
Yep.
I do want to give some plugs to Robert though. So I'm sorry, to Keith Roberts. His passion project is called the Oak Journal, and we're going to put this whole interview online as well though. So if you want to go ahead and listen to the whole thing, you can, where he explains it a little bit more in depth. But he actually I got one myself, sent it to me. It's this really gnarly journal. It's a 90-day journal that works on essentially he's got the Ikigai thing in here as well. You could see that bad boy. Essentially works on finding your passion, your purpose, and the things that you want to change in life. I'm actually going to do it and check it out, but it's really well put together. I think it's going to be a huge success, and I'm just really happy to have him on the show today. So if you get a chance, go to oakjournal.com and pick yourself up one. I highly recommend it. It's really cool.
All right, let's wrap it up.
All right, everybody that was a part of this experiment today, thank you so much. And if you want to see more, go ahead and check us out, digitalmastermind.com. Shoot me an email, Jon, Jon, at digitalmastermind.com. And I look forward to chatting with y'all next time. Thank you so much, everybody. Bye now.